Okay, so since there's a lot of wiring that goes on with this, with the Subaru swaps, like the 3.3 liter that I'm doing, and all of the turbo swaps that others do into NA cars, or maybe you just want to upgrade to something else, I figured I would show you some basics on wiring, as far as like how to solder and use heat shrink and things like that. Really want to avoid using like plug connectors or things like that. There's a lot of hack jobs out there, and you don't want your car to be one of them. So I hope this video helps. I'm going to show you how I learned to solder back in vocational school years and years ago, and basically how I do it on the job. I work as a technician, and electrical is my specialty. So I'm going to show you guys how to solder properly and make sure that your car is not a pile of crap. Well, aside from the wiring, mechanically it might be a pile of crap, but hopefully your wiring will be good. Basically, just a quick little thing about how to do it. So enough with the talk and on with how to. So here's what we got. I prefer to use butane soldering accessories. It's not the only way. There are many ways to do it. You can have electrical soldering irons, and I'm going to show you how to use an open flame system. It's not that I prefer one way or the other. They each have their own individual purposes and each have their own uses and situations where they work best. And I'll try to explain those to the best of my ability, when I like to use what and for what reason. So anyways, basically what we have, this is a Blue Point kit, which Blue Point is Snap-on, but there are many companies that make these types of things. This is a butane soldering iron. It has many different little attachments, as you can see here. This one I like to use because it's kind of a blade. I like to use it for like cutting plastic. It's good for that. And then here is a heating tip. This works really well for heating heat shrink, which we're going to get into. And then you've got various other little tips, a pointed tip and then a flat tip, and they work. But pretty much I just stick with this particular one. Other than that, like I said, I do use this. This is also a Blue Point, which is Snap-on, but you can get little butane torches all over the place. Don't use a propane torch because you'll probably burn yourself or set your house on fire or set your car on fire or whatever. Small flames are better. The smaller the better. Plus butane is really clean. It's a lot like propane. Burns at a pretty high temperature and it's nice to work with. But like obviously you don't want to use this up underneath a dash or near carpet or things like that. We're just going to be soldering out in the open, so these items should get you by. Like I said, you can buy electric soldering irons. You're going to get what you pay for. The more you spend, generally speaking, the better results you're going to get. Also, something I don't have with me, but you would need for like heat shrink, is a heat gun. You can buy those at most places, anywhere that sells like Home Depot or Lowe's or places like that. Harbor Freight sells them. Hair dryers work, but generally speaking, whatever woman you took them from gets angry because you're using them on her car, on your car or whomever's car, and plus they don't work that well. A good heat gun will come with several different elements to change the temperature, and you can go from just mild to gonna burn the neighborhood down. So be careful and know what you're doing, and practice. Don't go soldering on your car immediately. Practice. That's what I have this little wood block here for, and these extra wires. Now onto some tools. Really honestly, the only tools I use, Stake-Ons. These are fantastic. They have these little crimping portions inside there, which I use with varied success depending on what it is. It's really good for like crimping on eyelids and things like that. And then of course the super sharp cutters. But they're nice and long. The handles are long, so you get good torque. Don't try to cut bolts with them. It doesn't work. unless they're like really crappy bolts. Of course, these are from Cornwell, orange handle, not for any particular reason. They just happen to be Cornwell pliers, is what I have. Also, Cornwell, these are the strippers that I prefer. They're very simple, they're very cheap. You can buy these also at Lowe's or Home Depot, Harbor Freight, Advance, any of your auto stores, anywhere that sells electrical supplies. You can also get them at Radio Shack, or whatever else stores are local to you. But I prefer them over the kind that strip on their own. Like these, you actually have to grip the wire and strip. I'll show you that in a moment. It also has these small little holes. It's for gauging wire. These happen to go from a 20 gauge to a 12 gauge wire. You can strip larger wires, but you got to be careful. They also have a cutting surface right there, and they're spring loaded, so they open back up. They have a snazzy little lock on them, which works pretty good, keeping them closed inside your toolbox so you don't cut your finger off when you're trying to pick them up. Curved handle, real comfortable, easy to work with. I love these pliers. I've been using them for years. They work great. Like I said, if you like the kind that strip wires themselves, I don't have any because I don't like them. Use them. They work, kinda, for me sometimes. Some people love them. Not a fan. Just me. Other than that, let's get to it. I'm going to try to set this camera up where you guys can see pretty well what's going on. Okay, now you may be wondering why I have this wood block. This wood block is for me to press down on the wires, and I'm going to go ahead and turn the soldering iron that I have on so that it's hot. It has this little kickstand right here so that it can stand up and not burn the things that you're touching. A very good friend of mine, let me move these. A very good friend of mine has one of these, and he always puts it inside of his case, this case, while it's hot, and his little see-through screen is all melted. So let it cool off before you put it away. Oh, also, something I forgot to mention. This little sponge. You may be wondering what it's for. You're supposed to wet it, and then when you're done, you wipe your soldering tip off on that sponge. It gets all the solder off. A word about solder. There is solder that has no rosin inside of it, which is actually like a type of flux. This is a rosin core solder. I prefer thin wire solder because it's easier to work with, it flows, and it doesn't take nowhere near the heat to get it to move. Thick stuff is for doing thick wire. Thin stuff is for doing smaller wire, obviously. You really wouldn't want to try to do electronics with this. You can. Some people are very good at it. I am terrible at it. If you happen to be into Arduino, you know what you're doing. I don't. I would like to know, so if anyone wants to put out a tutorial on that or point me in the direction of one, that would be fantastic. But anyways, getting on, I'm gonna light this up. Basically, it's got a on switch, which you can see here. It just turns the gas on. Here is where you set the amount of gas, and this one's getting a little older. You have to kind of click it a couple times to get it to light. It may not light, it may be out of butane. Let me see. So that's what we have our butane for, and you can pick it up anywhere. It just goes in the end. It's just like a Zippo lighter, same deal. It works good. Now you can hear the gas is flowing. You don't want this to be wide open. Just a little bit will do. A little bit will do. So what we're looking for is that right there. That is orange. Now you see it's lit. This will begin to heat up. It takes a little while. The larger the tip that you have, the longer it's going to take to get hot. Just know that. If you have an